The email arrived at 2:14 a.m. A single line. A single sentence. A single execution order delivered without hesitation or humanity. Your role has been eliminated effective immediately. No signature. No explanation. No gratitude for 26 years of flawless systems, sleepless nights, and firefights that saved the company millions. They fired me in the dead of night, like a loose wire they finally found the courage to cut. But what they didn't know, what no one remembered except me, was that I still held the root security key to the most sensitive integration layer in the entire company. A master credential so deeply embedded in our infrastructure that removing it could collapse the entire architecture. And in 4 days, they were closing a $750 million merger that depended completely on that integration layer syncing cleanly with the acquiring firm. They thought they could erase me quietly. They forgot who built the system that held their empire together. The next morning, before anyone else even arrived at the office, I walked through the lobby as if nothing had changed. My badge still worked, of course it did. When you design the access architecture, you make sure your credentials can't be deleted without a direct authorization ping to your private terminal. They never knew that. They never bothered to ask. I rode the elevator to the 17th floor and stepped into the war room they had converted into the merger command center. Executives were half awake, hunched over coffee and spreadsheets, rehearsing numbers that meant nothing to them and everything to the acquiring firm. No one looked up. No one questioned why a terminated employee was walking among them like a ghost. Because their arrogance had always been my camouflage. I sat at the corner workstation, the one closest to the secure server gateway, and opened a diagnostic console. My personal key sat untouched, unchallenged. Like an old friend greeting me after a long silence. 5 minutes later, I found the merger sync protocol pulsing quietly in the background, preparing to initialize the data bridge. That bridge ran through my architecture. My architecture ran through my key. And my key had something they had forgotten existed, a silent failsafe. My insurance policy. A 7-line logic bomb. Hidden in plain sight. Activated only under one condition, if root authorization is revoked without final handoff by owner ID_01. Owner ID_01 was me. Termination equals trigger. And the bomb didn't destroy anything, no. That would be juvenile. It simply redirected all synchronization attempts into an infinite verification loop. A loop that no one could break, because no one else even knew it was there. The merger would freeze, not crash. Delay, not implode. Enough to kill the entire deal by itself. I didn't press anything. I didn't hack anything. I didn't touch the code. The trap had already been set years ago, for a day I hoped would never come. But they chose that day for me. At 9:03 a.m., the panic began. I stood quietly at the edge of the room as executives started pacing, tugging at their ties, and shouting at phones. The sync isn't going through. This integration step has never failed. Where the hell is IT? Why is everything locked? The acquiring team is on the call, stall them. I just watched. The CFO stormed into the room, sweat already soaking through his suit. "Where's Mason?" he snapped. Mason. My replacement. A 27-year-old cloud transformation specialist who once asked me if RAID was still relevant or just like a boomer thing. He arrived 5 minutes later, out of breath, clutching a laptop he clearly didn't understand. I don't know why it's not authorizing," he stammered. "The root key is, it's missing." Missing? No. Not missing. Revoked. Triggered. Executing exactly as designed. The CFO's face turned the color of wet concrete. The CEO, my executioner, burst into the room next, fury twisting his expression. He spotted me standing in the back and snapped, "Why are you here?" "You were," his voice caught. Because he realized something. Because he remembered. Because he finally connected the dots. "Did you do something?" he growled. I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. I simply lifted my badge from my belt and placed it gently on the desk. "You removed the one person who knew how to land the plane," I said quietly. "And now you're surprised it crashed?" He clenched his fists. "You'll never work in this industry again." I stepped closer, lowering my voice to a level only he could hear. "I built your systems. I kept them breathing. I held this company together while you were still polishing resumes. You fired me like a criminal, so don't lecture me about loyalty." He trembled with rage. "You're destroying a $750 million deal." "No," I said. "You did that when you fired the architect before the blueprint was finished." He opened his mouth to speak, then a shrill alert cut him off. The acquiring firm had hung up. The merger was dead. $750 million, gone. Their stock, already plummeting. Their leadership, finished. Their reputation, irreparable. By 3 p.m., the board demanded the CEO's resignation. By 6 p.m., Mason had been escorted out by security. By the next morning, the entire merger team was placed on administrative leave. The company would survive. Perhaps. But not as the titan it once was. They tried to erase me. Instead, they erased themselves. And as I walked into the sunset, contract offers already waiting, recruiters already calling, I didn't feel vengeance. I felt clarity. Because revenge isn't rage. Revenge isn't sabotage. Revenge isn't fire. Revenge is simply letting people choke on the consequences they cooked for themselves. And I didn't destroy them. They handed me the match and then doused themselves in gasoline. The fallout didn't hit like an explosion. It spread like a slow, creeping collapse, system by system, department by department, confidence by confidence, until the entire company realized something horrifying. They had never understood how their own infrastructure worked. Because they had never respected the person who built it. By the next morning, news outlets were already circling like vultures. $750 merger fails in final minutes, source blames internal system failure, CFO under investigation after root authorization error. Who is the dismissed engineer at the center of the collapse? My name wasn't public, not yet, but it would be. Because someone leaked a detail the executives hoped to bury, the termination of a senior architect minutes before critical integration. Journalists love two things: hypocrisy and incompetence. This story had both. The call they never expected to make that afternoon, at 1:17 p.m., my phone rang. Not my personal phone, the number no one had used in years. My old work line. A line only one department had access to. The board. I let it ring 8 times before I answered. "Hello?" A strained voice replied, "We need you to come in." I leaned back in my chair. "Why?" "I don't work there anymore." A pause. A breath. A swallow of pride. "We believe you may be the only person who can restore the integration and salvage a portion of the deal." I smiled, though they couldn't see it. "Even if I could," I said, "the failsafe activates permanently after 24 hours of wrongful revocation. You have 8 hours left, and you spent 12 firing everyone except yourselves." Silence. Then the tone shifted from commanding to pleading. "We're prepared to offer compensation." "How much?" "Name your number." I didn't hesitate. $5 million. Up front. A sharp inhale. "That's unreasonable." "No," I said calmly. Unreasonable as firing a root authority architect at 2 a.m. and assuming the system he built would still obey you. Another breath. 5 million is impossible. Then you called the wrong person. I ended the call. The CEO's final descent 3 hours later, I received another call, this time from an unknown number. But I knew exactly who it was. The CEO. His voice sounded different now. Less polished. Less powerful. More broken. "I'm begging you," he said. "Please. Come in. Help fix this. I'll personally approve the payment." "No," I said simply. He started to panic. "We can't survive this without you." "That's what I told you the day you fired me," I replied. "You dismissed 26 years of knowledge, of institutional memory, of systems no one else can even explain, because you thought a younger hire made you look modern." He exhaled raggedly. "You don't understand. The board is blaming me. Institutional investors are pulling out. I'm going to lose everything." I let the silence sit. Let him feel it. Then I said, "You didn't lose everything today. You lost everything the moment you assumed loyalty was something you could discard without consequence." I hung up for the last time. The line never rang again. The day the board came clean 2 days later, I received an encrypted letter from the board's legal team requesting a deposition. They wanted a statement on the system failure. They wanted me to confirm, or deny, their innocence. I read the document twice, then sent a short response. The system functioned exactly as designed. No embellishment. No accusation. Just truth. Because the truth was enough. The failsafe wasn't sabotage. It wasn't retaliation. It was insurance, designed to prevent unauthorized manipulation of sensitive data, especially during leadership transitions or personnel changes. A protection mechanism. A shield. A safety valve, misinterpreted as a bomb by people who never bothered to learn how the system worked. The rebuilding of my life in the weeks that followed, I found myself surrounded by opportunity. Every major tech firm that read between the lines reached out. "We'd like you to lead our infrastructure modernization. Can you consult on our merger architecture? Are you available for a long-term advisory contract?" The irony was almost poetic. The people who fired me called me outdated. But the industry called me essential. The people who dismissed me as disposable. But the world recognized me as irreplaceable. The merger collapse didn't ruin my life. It launched it. I took a position with a global security firm, remote work, 7-figure salary, full autonomy. My task? Preventing other companies from making the same arrogant mistake mine did. And yes, every time I ran an audit, every time I uncovered a vulnerability, every time an executive nervously asked, "How bad is it?" I thought of them. The people who tried to cut me out of the world I built. The people who learned, too late, when you fire the architect, the blueprint collapses with him. The collapse didn't just shake the company. It reshaped the entire industry. Because 3 days after the merger died, after the CEO resigned in disgrace, after the board scrambled to assemble a recovery committee, something happened that none of them expected. The acquiring company released their own statement. A single paragraph that hit like a bullet. "Our due diligence uncovered an internal systems integrity issue caused by the termination of the architect responsible for the core infrastructure. Continuing the merger under these circumstances would present substantial long-term risk." They didn't blame technical errors. They didn't blame unexpected setbacks. They blamed leadership incompetence. The market reacted instantly. Stock plummeted. Investors fled. 2 board members stepped down within 48 hours. And the narrative shifted, not tech failure. Leadership failure. This was no longer a glitch. This was a case study in arrogance. A case study in what happens when ambition outruns intelligence. A case study in what happens when you fire the one person keeping the machine alive. The day they lost everything 1 week after the collapse, an internal meeting leaked online, audio only, but devastating. The CFO, and interim CEO scrambling, shouting, blaming one another. CFO, he warned us about this. He literally warned us. CEO, he never said there was a failsafe. COO, maybe you should have asked. The recording cut off there, but it didn't matter. The damage was done. Even the public knew it now. They dismantled the foundation and acted shocked when the building fell. The offer they should have made years ago 2 weeks later, as I sat in my quiet new office overlooking the city, a world away from the chaos I'd left behind, my assistant knocked softly. "There's someone here to see you," she said. "Who?" She hesitated. "Your former board chairman." I blinked. "Send him in." He entered slowly, older than I remembered, thinner, eyes sunken from sleepless nights. He didn't pretend. Didn't posture. Didn't attempt to regain the power he'd lost. He simply sat across from me and folded his hands in his lap. "We should have listened to you," he said quietly. "You warned us for years. You tried to modernize the systems. You told us what would happen if you walked away." I didn't reply. He exhaled shakily. "We want to hire you back. Full authority. No oversight. Name your terms." I looked out the window at the skyline, alive, bright, full of companies that actually valued the people who kept them running. Then I looked back at him. "Why would I return," I asked softly, "to a place that only respects me when it's burning?" He swallowed. "We're desperate." "And I'm not," I replied. His shoulders sagged. He understood. He stood slowly, offered a hand he knew I wouldn't shake, and headed for the door. Before he left, he paused. "For what it's worth," he said, "the company won't survive without you." I smiled faintly. "That's the lesson," I said. "Not the solution." He didn't argue. He just left, quietly, like a man walking away from the ruins of something he once believed in. The chapter they never saw coming. By the end of the month, the company filed for restructuring. The executive team was sued by shareholders. The industry began requiring architect continuity protocols during mergers, because of me, because of what happened. I didn't ask for recognition. I didn't need revenge. But the universe delivered something far more satisfying, being proven right by the very world that once ignored me. And as I walked out of my new office into the evening air, the city lights reflecting off glass towers, a single truth settled inside me like calm water: I didn't destroy them. They destroyed themselves the moment they forgot that the quietest person in the room is often the one holding up the entire building. The company's downfall should have ended the story. But arrogance never dies cleanly. 3 weeks after the restructuring was announced, I woke up to a headline that almost made me laugh: "Former engineer behind $750 million collapse under investigation, sources claim sabotage." There it was. The smear campaign. Predictable. Desperate. Pathetic. They couldn't save the merger. They couldn't save their jobs. They couldn't save the company. So they tried to save their pride. By sacrificing me. Except this time, they picked a fight in the wrong arena, because the truth they were trying to bury was already in the hands of people who could not be bought: federal regulators. The real ones. Not auditors you can mislead. Not journalists you can spin. Not investors you can distract. These were the people who had already reviewed my entire architecture, my logs, my fail-safes, my authorization history. And they knew the truth: there was no sabotage. No breach. No malicious action. No tampering. The system had behaved exactly as intended when an authorized root owner was removed without transfer. In fact, the first sentence of their preliminary report stated, "The termination initiated an integrity protocol documented in internal security policy." Game over. But the old executive team didn't realize that yet. They thought they could bluff their way back to relevance. The summons one morning, while I was reviewing a global cloud migration project, my assistant popped into the doorway. "You have a visitor," she said. "Two, actually." "Clients?" "No, federal agents." I raised an eyebrow. "Send them in." Two agents walked in, calm, collected, not hostile. One carried a tablet. "Mr. Hale," the senior agent said, "we're finishing our investigation into the merger failure." I leaned back slightly. "Am I being accused of something?" "No," he said, almost amused. "Quite the opposite. We're here to close the case." He handed me the tablet. On the screen was a statement, short, perfect, lethal. Root authority protocols were executed automatically, without external interference. No malicious intent detected. Responsibility lies with improper executive action. I looked up. "They tried to blame me," I said. "They did," the agent replied. "Repeatedly. Loudly. But badly." The younger agent chimed in. "Honestly, I've never seen executives confess their own incompetence more efficiently. They handed us all the evidence we needed." I couldn't help but smirk. "So the case is closed?" "Closed," the agent confirmed. "And your professional record is officially cleared." Then he added, "Off the record? You're becoming a bit of a legend." "Legend?" I repeated. "Your integrity protocol is already being studied. 3 government agencies want to consult with you." "I'd take the calls." They left. I exhaled slowly. Not out of relief, out of recognition. This was more than vindication. It was validation. The one thing I never received in 26 years from the company I gave my life to. The final collapse 2 days later, the final blow hit my former company. A major financial network ran a special titled, "The Collapse of Meridian Systems: How Leadership Ignored Its Architect and Lost Everything." For the first time, the world heard the full story. How the CEO forced out senior engineers. How the board pushed reckless timelines. How a critical system was left in the hands of an inexperienced replacement. How they terminated the only person with root continuity authority hours before a major sink. And then, how the system did exactly what it was designed to do: protect itself from unauthorized access. The public tore them apart. Memes. Articles. Commentary videos. Wall Street analysts roasting their decisions. Even tech influencers posting breakdowns like, "Meridian Systems: How to Speedrun Corporate Suicide, a Masterclass." The company became a cautionary tale. A punchline in boardrooms. A warning in MBA programs. A red flag in investor presentations. And me? I became the ghost they couldn't stop haunting. The quiet end they didn't see coming. A month later, the company filed for acquisition at a humiliating fraction of its original value. The acquiring firm didn't even pretend to sympathize. In their press release, they wrote, "Mismanagement at the highest levels resulted in catastrophic operational failure." Not a single mention of an engineer. Not a single hint of sabotage. Just pure, unfiltered responsibility placed exactly where it belonged. On the people who thought they were smarter than the system and the man who built it. My last word on the matter: one evening, sitting in my high-rise office overlooking the city, a reporter called me. She wanted a quote for an article titled, "The Architect Who Outlasted His Company." "Do you want to comment?" she asked. I paused, considering. Then I said, buildings don't fall because the architect leaves. They fall because the people in charge refuse to maintain the foundation. She typed it silently. Then she asked, do you feel revenge? I looked at the skyline, alive, bright, solid. Revenge? I said. No. I feel free.